TG Geeks, episode 27, June 29th, 2015. What is the most horrible thing you can imagine? Hello and welcome to another webcast from tggeeks.com, where Ben and Keith, the Two Gay Geeks, talk about all aspects of geekdom and nerdery. Sci-fi, comics, film, horror, genre, you name it, we talk about it. I'm Keith Lane, your producer here at TG Squared Studios in lovely Phoenix, Arizona.
And I'm Ben Raggington in it's unbelievably hot Phoenix, Arizona.
Well, this week we have an interview for you, so let's get to it. Yes, this week we are speaking to Miguel Rodriguez from the lovely city of San Diego, California. He is the host of Horrible Imaginings Film Festival. Welcome, Miguel.
Thank you very much. Here to bring a little bit of sunny San Diego and the dark parts of San Diego as well.
Yes. Well, it's definitely hot here in Phoenix, and I'm sure we've been to San Diego, and I love the weather in San Diego.
Yeah, it's much nicer than here.
If we could afford to live there, we would.
Yeah, if I could afford to live here, I would too. Oh, wait.
Wait a minute, you already do.
I can't afford to live here. What am I doing?
Yes. Exactly. All right, well, Miguel, as I said, you are the host, and I'm sure you do other things for Horrible Imaginings. Tell us about yourself, and tell us about the Film Fest.
Well, yeah, host would be appropriate. I'm the director, host, founder, creator, everything.
God.
The Horrible Imaginings Film Festival, as well as the official podcast that goes along with the film festival, which I've been doing both for about 5 years now. Started in 2010.
Wow.
About a little less than a year after I moved to San Diego from my hometown, which is actually in Baltimore, Maryland.
Oh, wow.
Oh, you're a far away from home.
I am. I'm far away from home. I started the podcast first, frankly, just because I didn't know anybody in town and wanted to be able to talk about things I liked to talk about. And the podcast was just a way to do that, to put some voice out there, I guess. The film festival came very soon after, mostly because there wasn't a genre film festival in San Diego. I'd been to a lot in Los Angeles, 2.5 to 4 hours north of here, depending on traffic. I kept asking myself, why am I driving all this way and waiting in Los Angeles traffic for a film festival? What about San Diego? What about my hometown, my new hometown? And
yeah, you could wait in
lo and
San
behold,
Diego
there wasn't
traffic.
one, so I had to make it happen.
Yeah, so tell us about the film festival, the Horrible Imaginings. What exactly is that, and what is the goal of the film fest?
So the mission is to not only celebrate, but to actually try to elevate and analyze genre films. So and art too. I've had an art gallery in the past. The idea being mostly, it's easy to say it's a horror film festival. However, whenever I say that, the expectations or the understanding of what constitutes horror from most people, I'll say, tends to be rather narrow. And my purpose is to broaden the definition.
Oh, great.
So, yeah. So it might be not necessarily, there will be a lot of films I show that a lot of people will question whether or not that's a horror film. And that's great. I actually like that. I will say films of interest to horror fans, perhaps, but ultimately, I'm looking for films that the Horrible Imaginings, as the name would apply, would be films that in some way, thematically or in their story or what have you, attempt to explore the darker, more macabre, less light-hearted sides of the human condition, and it could be a variety of ways to do that. And it's films, it's short films, it's feature films, it's international films, it's local films, and panels and discussions and Q&As and all kinds of special presentations. And I try to make it quite eclectic and varied.
Well, that sounds fascinating.
How many years have you had the film festival going on now?
This will be the 6th annual film festival.
Wow.
I'm very happy and proud to say, actually.
That's quite a long time for a film festival.
What has been the reception?
I can't help wish for anything more, in that I have built an audience that are not just an audience, but have become very cherished friends. They are very loyal, very appreciative, very smart and intelligent, and don't shy away from different things. So the reception has always been really, really fantastic. In fact, from year one, the first year was a great reception. Partially, I attribute because of the dearth of something like this in the city. This is something new, and so I don't really give myself credit for that. But the films themselves, they speak for themselves, and people appreciated that. And my attempts to look at these things in a more thoughtful way, I think, in my programming and how they're presented, they're also curated, and we have, they're introduced and things like that. So there's more thought put into it. So
that's great.
The reception's awesome. Yeah,
that's great. We spoke to one of your
colleagues,
I suppose, Neil Halford.
Neil Halford, I believe it was.
Yes.
And
Neil Halford, yeah, we'll call him a colleague. He's a local filmmaker here in San Diego, and he's been an attendee as well as a friend and a fellow enthusiast of a variety of things that I'm enthusiastic about.
Right.
Will he be a participant this year?
I sure hope so, Neil.
Yeah.
We'll put that out there for him to answer.
Yeah, there we go.
I mean, we had the pleasure of seeing his short film Case of Evil,
yes,
for Phoenix Comic-Con, and we were just totally fell in love with the product.
Yeah.
So it's awesome. He did a really good job.
Yeah. Interesting thing is, we hadn't even planned to do that, even the film festival at Comic-Con, because horror is not our thing. We do talk about it, and we're glad to talk about it. Let me put it this way: I don't like gore. I like classic horror.
Yeah, which is all. Yeah, I mean, the way I like to think about it, and this is actually one of the things, and there are some films that I will show that have the gore side, and a lot that I show that have the classic side, and I can talk about that too. Right. That's one of the things I like about the genre, is that it is way more varied and eclectic than people give it credit for.
Oh, absolutely. And you've just kind of opened my mind a little bit more to that. And when you said something in the story that may be related to, so that really opens it up to be all kinds of film, etc., art, if you will.
Yeah, I have documentaries, and this year, I don't want to give too much away, obviously, but I will say I have one short film block I'm quite excited about that is, I'm trying to decide how I'm going to describe it, but it's a little more of not documentary per se, but a little more real, true to life kind of things. A film from Iran, a film from Africa, a film from Tijuana, and they're very personal and very naturalistic films, but they deal in some dark content, but they're very thought-provoking too.
Wow.
So it does open the door for a wider perception of what this is, and I think it's worked, because since I started Horrible Imaginings, a number of things have happened in the city. First of all, I've lost my mind a little bit, but
if you find it, maybe it's there with mine.
Yeah, I'll look around with my left sock, but I've been asked to do a number of other things. I've been asked to present films and be on panels for films for University of California, San Diego, UCSD. I'm working with the public library now to curate kind of maybe something that might be a little more up your guys' alley, 1950s and 60s science fiction B movies.
Oh, cool.
Schlockfest.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah, in a library setting, and I curate and introduce and am able to talk about them, in a more interesting way, which is really totally awesome. And I do a monthly film series called Film Geeks at our local art house cinema, which is all different kinds of things. This project has gotten me work and different other outlets for the exploration of this kind of film in a more serious way. And, you know, it's hard to try to talk about that without sounding pretentious, but it's true. I've been able to write articles for School Library Journal about this and for other sources about this, and that I'm proud to say.
And you basically had a lot of doors that have been opened for you because of this.
Yeah, and you know, it's all related to, you know, I went to school for it. I majored in classic literature as well as education.
Oh, wow.
So it all kind of has fit with what I went to school to do, just not necessarily in the way that I, you know, thought
anticipated.
It would at the time. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you were wanting to be a movie star, making the millions.
Well, never look a gift severed horse's head in the mouth.
Exactly.
That's all I gotta say. Now, you talked about some of the horror films that you've been getting, you know, like from Iran and Tawana. How have you been able to get such an international outreach?
Honestly, it I don't know. The first year didn't get so many, but by second year, well, I can say that one of my goals, and I still make this my goal, and I don't want to make other film festivals angry by saying this, but I try not to charge a submission fee for as long as I can.
Right.
I'm pretty forward thinking on social media and that kind of stuff. So for a long time, social media was how I was soliciting a lot of for submissions. And because I wasn't charging a submission fee, particularly internationally, because internationally, a lot of film festivals don't charge submission fees. I mean, like Cannes does, you know, the big ones.
Right.
But a lot of film festivals actually get subsidized. And there are a lot of international festivals that don't charge submission fees. So a filmmaker in, say, Slovenia, which I'm not making that up, I got a couple of films from that country.
Wow.
They can't afford to spend $25 to $75 to submit a film to a film festival. I have always, you know, I've lost money doing this because I probably could make more money by charging submission fees, but I don't think I would get as many, and I don't think I would get as international a selection. This year I'm at about 900 submissions.
Wow.
Yeah.
Lord.
Yeah,
So
there's no shortage.
Are you going to screen all 900 of them, or is there a selection
You mean
process?
by screen show them to the public?
Yes.
No, absolutely not.
No, because you'd have to start it now, and it would still be going by the time the film festival actually is supposed to happen.
A, that. B, a lot of them are not. I don't want to be mean, but
they're not worthy.
Yes, exactly. They wouldn't be selected. I'm not saying all 900 are gonna be selected. The thing about having such a huge selection is it is difficult to go through them all and program them all, but it does mean I'm able to be very selective.
And you have a wide variety of
oh yes,
subjects
that's
to choose
something
from.
I'm very interested in, is
Great.
the variety.
Oh, super.
But that would also speak to the notoriety that this film festival must be getting now. If you're receiving those kinds of submissions at that number and from all over the globe, that's got to speak something to what you've managed to put together here.
I think part of it is the podcast in terms of that.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, the podcast has quite an international downloads all over the world.
So tell us a little bit about the podcast.
The podcast is an extension of the film festival. It's actually only recently that I've called it Horrible Imaginings Film Festival and Podcast, where I merged them. They were separate for a while, but, you know, I would talk about the film festival on the podcast. It used to be called the Monster Island Resort Podcast. And now I didn't change the episode count or anything. I just changed the name and rebranded it because, frankly, having the two different names and brands was a huge pain. And now I don't have to have two different things on my business card. It's just Horrible Imaginings Film Festival and Podcast. But yeah, in terms of what the podcast does, the original tagline was discussing horror and history, art, literature, film, and beyond. I've actually changed it to destigmatizing the stigmatized because I've started bringing, again, it's that whole what people expect horror to be thing. I've expanded beyond the expectations of that. And while I might say, yes, this has ramifications in the horror genre, I talk about a lot of things now that maybe just are very niche or are misunderstood. For example, my last episode was about 1970s action films made in Bollywood.
Wow.
So
oh, that is pretty niche.
Yes, it's pretty niche. Yeah, a friend of mine, Todd Statman, who does a great blog, by the way, Die Danger, Die Die Kill, just put out a book called Funky Bollywood, The Wild World of 1970s Indian Action Cinema. And I had him down here for a Q&A and a book signing, and we turned the Q&A into a podcast, and it's a really, I think, really good one. It came out really nicely.
Wow, that's great. I did want to touch on one thing. I appreciate that you had said that your film festival is curated and all of the films are introduced, et cetera, et cetera. And that kind of follows up on what I was going to say earlier about our experience at Phoenix Comic-Con. Is we had not intended to do that, but Bill, a guy that I've known since the first day of 5th grade, is Neil's cousin, and he told us about it, so we decided to do it. It was at 10:30, and it wound up not being at 10:30.
Yeah, it was closer to 11:30.
It was 11:30.
As things do, yeah.
and then we walk in, and they turn the lights down, and boom, there was Case of Evil. I mean,
right up front.
It was like no introduction, no nothing. Just there
so you
it
kind
was.
of let in like blind sheep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I appreciate that you.
There's something to be said for a person going into a film cold like that. However, I think there's also much more to be said for giving a film some kind of context.
Absolutely.
And I don't mean to say this is exactly what to expect, but rather when someone thinks about what a film's trying to say or what kinds of emotions a film's trying to access, and they come to the film with that kind of thing in mind, I do think it not only leads to a deeper appreciation and understanding of the film, but a more enriching experience with the film. And that's one of what I hope to accomplish with the film festival, not only for the newer films, but kind of particularly because I do repertory cinema for it as well. At Horrible Imaginings, it's not all new independent. There's at least every year 2 or 3 retrospectives of classic film.
Oh, cool.
A lot of that often needs an introduction for the context of the time in which it came out, the constraints the filmmakers may have been working under, what kinds of social or political things were going on in the background at the time the film was being made, and things like that. So that can make it a more enriching experience as well.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to coming and just being a part of it for the day that we can be there.
Yeah.
It will be a new experience for us.
Did you say you were going to be able to be there on Sunday?
Saturday, probably.
Saturday, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Now, Sunday, I mean...
I have a classic film on Sunday that's very good from 1944 on 35 millimeter. I'm just going to put that out there.
What time?
What time of the day?
It'll probably be a little late, like 7 p.m.
That'll be tough. That'll be tough. Yeah.
I know. Yeah, I know it'll be tough.
Yeah, because we have 6 hours of driving to do after that.
No.
Yeah, that'll be a little bit difficult. In addition to this horror film podcast, horror film festival and podcast, are there any other projects that you are connected with?
Whew. All right. I think I mentioned a few of them, but I'll talk about them in greater detail. The Schlockfest, which I mentioned for the library, the library is currently getting renovated. So we're waiting for the blinds to be put back up before that gets started again. There's a brand new library downtown in San Diego, the new Central Library, and they've got a great auditorium. And the last Wednesday of every month, we show a classic science fiction film, and they've called it Schlockfest. I'm not the one who came up with the name. I do kind of like it. I like the idea of schlock. However, what ends up happening is there are some titles that I like to show and talk about, and there are members of the audience that will take, I don't want to say offense, but they'll take issue with the use of the term schlock in connection with that film. I think one example that I can think of is, it wasn't actually a film, but I decided to do classic TV, and I showed an episode of the Star Trek the original series and an episode of the Twilight Zone, and it was around Thanksgiving time, so it was To Serve Man. for Twilight Zone. Yeah, and then I'm blanking out on the episode title from Star Trek, but it's the one where Captain Kirk becomes Kirok and he lives among the natives.
The Paradise Syndrome.
Paradise Syndrome. Yes, thank you. And those are just two great episodes.
I have to admit, showing that as part of a schlock fest is, I have to admit, I find that a bit mind-boggling. So let's give us a definition of what would be schlock.
Okay, so I am using schlock not in the well. First of all, I will reiterate that I didn't come up with a name. Now that I'm a programmer, I don't want to be tied to the name so much as tied to quality content and discussion. So that's always going to come out first, regardless of whether even I think it's schlocky. Okay, so that's thing one. Thing two is, while those are great television, and there's no argument there, there are definitely goofy elements. Now, these are not things I play up. I do not believe in MST3King these things or anything like that. That's not my intention. Particularly, like, To Serve Man is an awesome episode, but logically it fails under even the lightest scrutiny. For example, you cannot discern an alien language without some kind of Rosetta Stone. That's just impossible. Right. So, things like that. There are elements that can be a little bit schlocky, but I agree. I actually think both of those episodes have a lot of subtext that give them such a rich and such a complete story underneath what's actually going on that they deserve to be elevated above the word schlock. But there are schlock, William Shatner shouting, "I am Kirok" is a little bit schlocky.
Yeah, just a little.
And the way I say it, because in some cases it's hard to defend them using schlockfest for some of these things, but the way I say it is I like to use that word schlock not as a derogatory term, but almost as a reclaimed word.
Oh, good.
Historically speaking, the word schlock has been bandied about in the past by critics about shows like Star Trek and The Twilight Zone.
Right.
It's only kind of with the hindsight and historical context now that they have been appreciated for doing something more than was expected of them at the time. But at the time, there were a lot of critics who would have called those schlocky, kind of cheesy shows. Even, not audiences per se, but, your Rex Reeds of the time. You know what I mean?
Oh, please.
So,
exactly.
Yeah, I think
did Rex Reed ever like anything?
In that context as a reclaimed word, as in kind of like the LGBT movement has reclaimed queer, things like that.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that terminology of reclaiming a word.
Honestly, if I were to have started this series at the library myself, I probably would have called it something other than Schlockfest.
Right.
Okay. So I don't know what, though.
Right.
All right, so...
not Schlockfest.
Yeah, the not Schlockfest. Yes, that'd be a good one.
I don't know, science fiction, I don't know, whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Something.
So what...
Cult Movie Central.
There you
go.
No,
I like that.
That would be great.
I like that one.
Maybe you can get them to change that.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, because that could. I mean, when you call something Schlockfest, I mean, a lot of people will approach that with already a prejudice.
You're right.
I agree, yeah, 100%. And that could be a disservice to what you're trying to do. But to call it cult, that anytime you're dealing in the science fiction or the horror genre field, and you call something cult, man, people all of a sudden their eyes just open up and they're like, oh, okay, well, what are they going to be showing? And and you're going to get a varied audience that's going to come out to see that.
There's something to this here. And that actually, believe it or not, speaks to the importance of curation again.
Right.
The importance of introduction, because something that's called Schlockfest without curation and without building an expectation of the audience with an introduction before the film starts would easily devolve into a bunch of people guffawing and making fun of the film while they watch it.
Right.
Which it isn't what ends up happening. I do agree with that.
Now, one thing that I want to touch on, because I find this utterly fascinating, I understand that you are involved in the H.P. Lovecraft Film Festival.
Yes.
Oh, please divulge.
What would you want to know?
Tell us about it.
Probably boring.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm a big, I'm big on Cthulhu, so I think Lovecraft is fascinating. I mean, so what can you tell us about the Lovecraft Film Festival?
Well, the Lovecraft Film Festival is a collection of very unique individuals, as I'm sure you must know. There's something. How can I say this?
Be politically
There's something
correct now.
about people who come together because of the writings of Lovecraft. It's a very particular kind of human being, and which is not a denigration. It's just it's a lot of fun going to the H.P. Lovecraft Film Festival because of the people you get to talk to and the people who run it. So I've been involved with it for a few years because I know Aaron Vanek, who is the current director of the San Pedro, LA version of the H.P. Lovecraft Film Festival. Obviously, it's only been around for about 6 years. In that location. It's been in Portland for I think like 15 or a little more, maybe 17 years. Yeah. But the Southern California chapter's only been there a little while, and I've been going to the Southern California one since the first one, and since I was doing Horrible Imaginings, Aaron and I have kind of at the beginning would partner and do cross-promotional kind of stuff, but I've helped with things like administrative duties or helping with the website or various other kinds of things, seeing some of the films, programming, that kind of stuff. And it looks like I may be working with them a little more in the future, but as of right now, I'm not sure what that looks like. I'm a little concerned because I have so much work already. However, I do really like that film festival, and the people who run it, and Aaron especially, have been really they've put their heart and souls into it. And it's pretty interesting because, with the number of submissions I get for this film festival, the H.P. Lovecraft one is so much more specified that they don't get the same number of submissions, but it's because, they're looking for films that are Lovecraftian.
Right.
That's pretty
specific.
That's pretty darn specific. Yeah. But they still manage to put together a solid program every year, which I'm always really impressed with.
That's amazing.
Lovecraft is an interesting topic, not just because, the whole idea of cosmic horror is fascinating, but Lovecraft as an individual is this kind of bizarre historical figure who even people who love his writing are a little bit conflicted about, just because, he was a neurotic bastard. He was he was extremely xenophobic, and there are things about him that are not very likable, but there's a lot about him that's fascinating and brilliant. So that kind of contradiction is really kind of fascinating to me.
Well, he was a very disturbed man, so that certainly plays into why some of his stories are as equally unusual.
That's right. And in fact, for me, for the podcast and the film festival, as someone who likes to explore what makes something scary or what makes something cathartic, his essay, Supernatural Horror in Literature, is really brilliant. It's my favorite thing that he's written, and it's really thoughtful. And frankly, we're lucky to have that in the lexicon. So it makes me happy.
Cool. So tell us about the San Diego Latino Film Festival.
Latino Film Festival, I believe this is the year 23 coming up.
Good.
I have been, I know, they've been around a while. And in fact, the local cinema, Digital Gym Cinema, which is a micro cinema we have here in San Diego. And for all intents and purposes, it's our only super independent cinema. It's run by an organization called Media Arts Center San Diego. They're the ones who put on the Latino Film Festival. And for the last couple of years, I've been programming for them a section of genre films called Un Mundo Extraño, or The Strange World. It similarly to what I do with Horrible Imaginings, there might be some stuff that's horrific, but sometimes it's science fiction-y, sometimes it's fantasy, that kind of thing.
Wow,
now this actually does sound very interesting, because I think to your average layperson who just really doesn't know anything, you pick them off on the street and you say, there's this Latino film festival coming up. They may have, again, as with the Schlagfest, they may approach that with already some kind of a preconceived notion as to what it's all about. But it sounds like that there could be something very illuminating, especially to someone who really is into various types of genre programming, shall we say.
Well, and that's one of the things I like about having the podcast and my own film festival and my own following, because in the last few years, I've been able to get people who are my normal audience to try out film festivals that they wouldn't normally go to. So I've actually worked really closely with a lot of film festivals in San Diego. Latino's only one. My other really close partner film festival is Film Out San Diego, the LGBT film festival. They're a very big partner for Horrible Imaginings, and it's the same. That's the same situation as well. And so what I'm able to do is put out, here's what I'm looking forward to at Latino. Here's what I'm looking forward to at Film Out, or PAC Arts, the Asian Film Festival, to show that there is a variety of programming, and there can't that could be of interest to anyone. And that's what's important, because the Latino Film Festival, if it's going to be something important, shouldn't be just for Latino people.
Right.
And the Film Out, if it's going to be important, shouldn't just be for people in the LGBT community, and PAC Arts shouldn't just be for people in the Asian Pacific community. For those, or the Jewish Film Festival shouldn't just be for people in the Jewish community. For those film festivals to really mean something to their mission, especially in a diverse community like Southern California, then they need to appeal, or at least bring in some population outside those communities. Because what makes film important, other than entertainment, is it tells stories. It helps us understand one another. And, right now in this country, we're living in a time of pretty intense turmoil.
Yes.
And one thing we could use is a lot more understanding. And I think film can do that. But it can only do that it reaches people outside these little subsections.
Right.
So it's great to see people who aren't Latino at Latino Film Festival or what have you.
Yeah. The interesting thing, we had Arizona Opera did a mariachi, the first mariachi opera.
We had that here in San Diego too with SD Opera.
Yeah, and it just it was just fascinating.
It was a huge success.
Oh yeah, isn't it awesome?
Yeah. So going back to Horrible Imaginings, tell us, for anybody who wishes to attend, where and when is it?
Okay, so I will say the when first. It's going to be September 11th through 13th, the beginning of September. It used to be in November, but now I'm doing this thing where we're ushering in the season of fear. It's the beginning of autumn, which I actually really appreciate. A, because I think that's a nice idea, and B, because it's getting the festival out of the way early. Yeah. I can actually enjoy Halloween again.
Yeah, there you go.
Good point. Good point.
Yeah. And the where I wanted to save, because I'm really thrilled about this. We have a new venue this year. It is at the Museum of Photographic Arts, also known as MOPA, in Balboa Park.
Wow.
So
Nice.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous theater. It's a gorgeous area. The building is historic and kind of creepy, and it's just perfection. And I just went to a screening put on by the Italian Film Festival, a really nice film. And it was at MOPA, and I came out, and it was nighttime, and I was walking down Balboa Park, and I just felt like elated, because I was like, this is the new Horrible Imaginings location.
Good.
So yeah, it'll be at MOPA, at the Museum of Photographic Arts.
Fantastic. Now, for anybody who wants to follow the film festival, do you have an online presence? Are you on Twitter or Facebook, on the intertubes? And how can people follow what you are doing?
Well, way too much, actually. But Facebook's always good. My favorite, actually, is Twitter. So my Twitter handle is HIFSD, or HIFFSD, Horrible Imaginings Film Festival San Diego. I'm on Twitter quite often, not just talking about the film festival stuff, but I do a lot of live tweeting of films. I'm a member of the Drive-In Mob and the TCM Party, because I'm a classic film fanatic, and Turner Classic Movies is my crack cocaine. And so the TCM Party is just a lot of friends who watch films on TCM and have conversations about it at the same time, which we really love. So you'll see me on Twitter doing a lot of stuff like that. On Facebook, you can look for Horrible Imaginings, and please like the page, and you can get all kinds of news through there. And the website is hifilmfest.com or hifilmfest.com. And there's a newsletter you can sign up for because we do lots of screenings every month, as well as the main film festival in September. There's never a dull moment.
Fantastic. I can simply say that I'm very excited now for coming to this film festival in San Diego. I'm very interested in what you're going to have to offer. It sounds like it could be not just entertaining, but highly educational, which I'm sure is what you were pushing for to begin with.
Yeah, thank you. That is exactly what I hope. Like, I hope that educational doesn't turn people off, but it is something that I want to be at least more thoughtful and builds appreciation for the film and the genre. And likewise, I look forward to having you there, and it would be my pleasure to see you in the seats.
We will definitely be there. So, Miguel, just want to thank you so much for calling in. This has been a very enjoyable discussion.
Yes.
On my end too, my friends. Thank you.
All right. Thank you to Miguel Rodriguez, the host and or Jack of all trades of Horrible Imaginings Film Festival in San Diego. Here are a few selected birthdays for June 29th through July 5th. June 29th, Gary Busey is 70. I remember he started as Teddy Jack Eddy on the Mazeppa Pompazoides Uncanny Film Festival and Camp Meeting in the 70s in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
You can still find that on YouTube, can't you?
Yes, you can.
Go see it.
Teddy Jack-Eddy, as Mazeppa would call him, or Coach Chuck would call him. Ray Harryhausen would have been 94 on June 29th. June 30th, the lovely Lena Horne would have been 96 years old.
Wow.
And David Wayne would have been 99. David Wayne, we just watched Andromeda Strain the other day, so interesting that his birthday is right now.
Yeah, no kidding.
July 1st, Princess Diana would have been 54. What a shame. Henry Simmons, 44. Henry Simmons?
Henry Simmons, I know that name.
Mac.
Ah.
From Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And David Prowse is 79 on July 1st. Yes, although that was not his.
That was not him, really, no.
and Jonathan Pryce is 67 on July 1st. July 2nd, Saul Rubinek is 66 years old. Owen Yeoman is 36. You recognize that name?
I do, but I can't place it.
Mentalist.
Ah.
And Pierre Cardin is 92. July 3rd, Tom Cruise is 52.
Do you recognize that name? I'm just joking.
Yeah. Kurtwood Smith is 71. Do you recognize that name?
Kurtwood Smith, actually, he was in a couple of Star Trek features. He was the president in Star Trek VI and was also a guest role in Voyager.
Exactly. And several other things, too, when I looked him up on...
he was the big heavy in RoboCop.
Yep.
The first one, I think.
Yep. On July 4th, Independence Day. Happy birthday, United States of America. Actually the beginning of the United States. And would you believe that Malia Obama is 16?
16? How they've grown.
Oh, my God. And here's a twist. Abigail Van Buren and Ann Landers both shared the same birthday on July 4th.
What kind of coincidence is that?
How about that?
Really?
Happy birthday. And here's a funny one for you. Rube Goldberg, July 4th, 1883.
I'm sure there was all sorts of big contraptions and whatever that celebrated his birth.
Exactly. Stephen Foster, July 4th, 1826. And on July 5th, Katherine Hellman is 86.
Wow.
And Phineas Taylor Barnum, born in 1810.
There's a sucker born every minute.
Absolutely, Mr. P.T. Barnum.
You don't need to hear their identification. They're the Two Gay Geeks. They can go about their business. Move along.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Hello, everybody. Jeremy here to tell you about Casual Mode with Jeremy and David, the podcast for geeks of all trades and masters of none. Every week, my best friend / little brother by spirit, David, and I talk about a wide variety of geeky topics. from video games and technology to pro wrestling and even sports. Yes, that's right, sports fans. You're geeks too, whether you'd like to admit it or not. We also occasionally have interviews, and we go over the silliest news and dumbest tweets of the week. We're not a podcast for kids, though, as our podcast is uncensored. Our takes are raw. And if there's a topic that needs a good hard look, we're gonna give it to you. Throughout the week, we also have additional content, including Let's Plays, Vlogs, and special single-topic minis that run the gamut of the topics we cover. Pro wrestling, college basketball, the competitive Pokemon scene, and so much more. So, where can you find all these wonderful things? Well, you can either check us out on the FNX network, at fnx.network, or you can check out our website, casualmodepodcast.com. We've also got links to all our various different social media outlets, such as Twitter and Facebook. And if you search Casual Mode on YouTube or iTunes, you can subscribe to us and get everything as it is posted. And of course, don't be afraid to let us know what you think by leaving comments on all of those various different outlets. We're always looking for ways to make the show better and more fun for us and for you. We hope you'll join us for Casual Mode with Jeremy and David, coming to you every week. Until next time, later y'all.
Go give a listen to Casual Mode Podcast. And now it is time for listener feedback. And guess what?
No feedback?
No feedback this week unless you found some.
I couldn't find any.
You couldn't find any?
No. I did. There wasn't anything on any of the stories that we did.
I did. We did have a comment. It's a comment on our website on my review of Beyond the Impact. And go take a look at it on our website. If you comment on our Facebook page, YouTube episodes, or at tggeeks.com, you could receive a shout out on a future episode. Or you could call our listener feedback line and we will play a comment on air. 469-TG-GEEKS. That's 469-844-3357. And a special note, if you're a Skype user, you can look us up on Skype. We are TG Geeks. Send us a request for an ad, and we will add you, and then you can call us on Skype and leave a voicemail that way.
Well, I got a couple of stories that I really want to touch on really fast. Finally, the search is over. We now have a Spider-Man. Tom Holland has been cast as the role. Now, for anybody who doesn't know who he is, which I think is like everybody, he's 19, he's English, and he's probably best known for his lead role in Billy Elliot, Billy Elliot, yeah. Billy Elliot, the musical, while in England. And he did a couple of other things. He was also starring in the movie The Impossible, playing Gregory Cromwell, and the Wolf Hall TV miniseries as well. So he's been cast to play the part. This was something that had to be agreed between Marvel and Sony. There's already some kind of backlash about it, though. A lot of people are very upset that, they got another white straight guy. Well, just as an FYI, Sony had a stipulation saying that Peter Parker has to be white, has to be straight, and anybody that Marvel may have thrown their way to play the part that didn't follow into the very narrow parameter, got nixed.
Oh, well.
Yeah. So, but there's already a lot of people that are complaining about it. There's a lot of backlash. They're saying that even though he's 19, they say he's too young looking. All you got to do is Google Tom Holland, Holland, and you will see for yourself. He looks like he's 15. He's really, really young.
Well, that'll fit the high school parameter.
It will, but if they're trying to go for the Peter Parker college years, maybe a bit too young. And also the fact that he's unknown. So that's kind of got a lot of people a bit upset. But you know what? I trust Marvel. So I'm going to give them I'm going to cut them some slack on this. Now, the second thing that came up, now that finally Sony and Marvel agreed on this, now they're finally going forward with Peter Parker / Spider-Man and Captain America, but they can do also the Spider-Man reboot. People were wondering, will characters be interchangeable? Are we going to have actual synergy? So Kevin Feige was approached on that. First, he was asked, how far will Marvel be involved in Sony's Spider-Man movie? And he simply responded with saying, we're producing it for Sony. It's exciting. We're treating it like we treat all of our other films, trying to make the best version of Spider-Man possible. He's very excited about that. So I'm reading that as Marvel is producing, but Sony is distributing. That's kind of where I'm getting on that. The big other question is, will there be an interchanging of characters? And all Feige would say is this: specifics of the story aside, the agreement has been made between Sony and Marvel that we could do that.
Interesting.
So we're kind of hoping now that maybe we'll actually get to see some really good synergy. I mean, it would be kind of nice to have a cameo from one of the other Marvel movies show up in the Spider-Man flick. That could be a lot of fun.
Could be fun.
So now moving on to another Marvel property, and that will be Thor 3. Well, Thor 2 did not do too well. And part of the problem is people kind of pointing fingers at the director.
So people were kind of Thor about that?
Yeah, they're I don't get it. It was Alan Taylor's feature film directorial debut, and for anybody who doesn't know who Alan Taylor is, he's better known for working on Game of Thrones, which is why he... Ooh, you got something to say about that? I think Keith is letting his Freudian slip show. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. I'll be here all week. Marvel saw what Alan was doing for Game of Thrones, and they thought, okay, this guy, he's kind of got a good medieval look about him. We'll use him. It didn't go over too well. I think a lot of people were kind of thinking that maybe some of the big emotional angst wasn't quite there. Maybe there wasn't a lot of the polish that was in the first film, especially when dealing with Asgard. So what are they doing? They're turning back to Kevin Branagh to do the third Thor.
Kenneth, maybe?
Kenneth, did I say Kevin?
Yes, you did.
I'm sorry. Kenneth Branagh to do the third Thor film. That's a tongue twister, I'm telling you.
Third Thor film.
Well, now you see why I got Kenneth wrong?
Yeah.
It's too many this.
Kenneth for third Thor film.
Exactly. That's why I had such a bad time with it. So anyway, the third Thor film is going to be called Ragnarok. It is currently being written by Craig Kyle and Christopher Yost, and it's going to open in theaters 2017. And so we're really kind of excited, hoping that Kevin Branagh, I can't even say Kevin now, Kenneth will be getting the green light on that one. Now moving on to yet another Marvel property. We're going back to Civil War now. William Hurt has been cast to return as General Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross. Now, what's interesting...
What the heck is that?
Well, for anybody who doesn't remember, General Ross, played by William Hurt, was in the Edward Norton Hulk film that Marvel put out. Not the one by Ang Lee. Not that film. No, the actual proper Marvel movie where Hulk was facing against the Abomination. And they got William Hurt to come back. He's going to reprise the role, but... what's interesting is that he's said that he's going to be playing Ross in a new way, a very new and exciting way. This is something of a new version and a new take that they're going to give him. And of course, everybody's wondering, for anybody who follows the comic books, people may, and anybody, so check this out, people. General Ross administers himself the same super soldier serum that Bruce Banner got, only with a slightly different result. General Ross becomes Red Hulk in the comic books. So now people are wondering, are we going to see a Red Hulk in the upcoming Civil War movie?
Interesting.
That will be interesting, especially since it does look like that our friendly Bruce Banner / Hulk will be in the fourth film. I'm kind of excited about that. Now, something that I'm also very excited about, and yet another Marvel property, Ant-Man. The reactions are in. They had press screenings already, and the critics are kind of going a little ape on this one. We're seeing things already like Ant-Man is a different Marvel movie in scale. Haha, go figure. But also a bunch of fun. Laughed a lot. Great performances all around. Eric Davis of Fandango wrote, "So I saw Ant-Man and I dug it. Most inventive action scenes yet, and tons of heart. A softer, more intimate Marvel movie and a great family film." The reactions are coming in all over the place.
That's great.
And I think I think this is a really good thing, because we just had the big, oppressive, heavy Age of Ultron Marvel movie. So I think it's going to be kind of nice that we can go with something a little lighter, something more intimate, something possibly even more minimal. So I'm very, very happy about that. Now, a complete divergence from Marvel. Beetlejuice 2 officially starts filming this year.
Hey, how about that?
It's about time. There's been a lot of talk about this. Apparently, Tim Burton, he was doing press for something called Big Eyes right before the holidays, and he was getting the Beetlejuice question. So he sort of tipped off that Winona Ryder is going to be back.
Oh, cool.
They're actually bringing her back, but nothing about Alec Baldwin. Nothing on Alec Baldwin or Gina Davis, thank you. But they've got Winona Ryder back. Obviously, Michael Keaton is going to be back. He's very excited about the idea. And where it stands now is Tim's got to get ready to make something called Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children done. And then hopefully we're set, deals are done, and we're waiting in the wings, ready to go right after Peregrine's wraps up. The ideal timeline is we're getting into it towards the end of this year. There's no official word on the plot, but if Keaton and Burton are both pumped, then we're all excited about it. But the fact that Winona Ryder's going to be back kind of makes me think that this is going to be just a repeat of the Beetlejuice cartoon. So we kind of need to wait and see. Yeah. Now, next year on Netflix, another Marvel property, Jessica Jones. People are already talking about that. Of course. Well, interesting that you should ask, because after the success of Daredevil, a lot of people are really interested in knowing what Netflix has in mind. So here's everything that we know about Jessica Jones so far. She is one of the Defenders. She is the second of 4 Marvel series that will eventually come together for the Defenders crossover series. It follows Daredevil, and it's going to precede both Luke Cage and Iron Fist. It is filming in New York, like the rest of the Marvel Netflix series. She's filming in New York City. I'm kind of guessing she's also going to be in Hell's Kitchen. That's kind of the feeling that I'm getting.
Hell's Kitchen's getting awfully crowded now.
Getting awfully crowded. It's going to be based on the TV series Alias, interestingly enough. The character Jessica Jones was created by Brian Michael Bendis and Michael Gaydos. The series will be loosely based on her debut comic book series Alias. Okay, based on the series Alias. Okay, the comic is receiving a trade paperback reprint ahead of the TV series release. Okay, the title has been changed. It was supposed to be called AKA Jessica Jones, and now it's simply going to be called Marvel's Jessica Jones. Why they dropped the AKA? Maybe they thought it was too confusing. Who's to say? As far as the synopsis, this is all that we've got. Working as a private investigator in New York's Hell Kitchen, an ex-superhero's past comes back to haunt her in Marvel's Jessica Jones. Aside from that, we know nothing else. David Tennant is going to be the big heavy. He's going to be known as the Purple Man. I guess his proper name is Kilgrave, but he's known as the Purple Man in the comic books, and he's the supervillain responsible for Jessica's traumas. It'll be interesting to see David Tennant in another villainous role. We've only seen him a little bit in Goblet of Fire, so it'll be nice to see him in another one. There's Mick Coulter is actually going to premiere the role of Luke Cage in Jessica Jones before he gets his own series. And as for the rest, Carrie Ann Moss, who we haven't really seen much since the Matrix movies, is going to be playing a character named Harper, who is a figure of some authority and could be a power ally for Jessica. Interesting.
Very interesting.
Yes, Jessica Jones will be premiering in Netflix on 2016.
Looking forward to it.
I am too. And then lastly, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. They've got already a new sort of a subtitle for the series, or maybe you could call it a series or season 3 title, Secret Warriors. Now, it looks like there's no more beating around the bush about where season 3 is going to be going. The studio has officially revealed via Variety that the series will be introducing characters inspired by the Secret Warriors comic book when the show returns in the fall. And Secret Warriors was a quote-unquote Dark Reign era book from writer Jonathan Hickman and artist Stefano Casilli. The series saw Nick Fury's protege, Daisy Quake Johnson, who we all know to actually be Skye in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., leading a secret team of young, powered operatives. And for everybody who watched season 2 finale, they were hinted in this direction when Phil Coulson was filling in as Daisy's mentor on the show, or Skye's mentor, handing her a folder named Caterpillars. And it's said to contain details of her next mission. So season 3 is going to be seeing Coulson and Skye traveling the world and recruiting powered people to help form the Marvel Cinematic Universe version of the Secret Warriors team. And just for San Diego Comic-Con people, To bring a bit of the TV narrative to the real world, Marvel is going to be sending ambassadors to the floor of Comic-Con International San Diego to find the most dedicated Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fans and reward them with a limited edition Secret Warriors pin. Fan can track ambassadors by following the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Twitter account. They can then complete their first mission by posting a photo of themselves to social media with the hashtag S.H.I.E.L.D. Secret Warriors. The show's cast will then pick their favorite photos to share via the show's official account. And the series returns September 29th on ABC.
Is that it?
That is it.
Next week, we have another special interview for you, so stay tuned. Okay, that should do it for this episode of TG Geeks Webcast. Be sure to check out the article for this webcast episode. And remember, you can comment on our Facebook page or our website, tggeeks.com, or you can leave us a voicemail at 469-TG-GEEKS. That is 469-844-3357. From TG Squared Studios, I am Keith Lane. Thanks for listening. I bid you peace.
Cheers.